We have the technology. You can do it.
Now that we're live, we're going to start this all over.
Smooth as silk.
Yeah,
Version
this is
0.1.
Green Talk 1.0.
Green Talk 1.0.
And start.
Hi, my name is Scott McIntyre. I am Chief Instigator at Infinite Green Companies. And we are here today to talk about contact centers and how they've evolved in the modern day over the 20 years of experience I have and others have in the contact center space. We're going to do some quick introductions, and then we are going to talk a little bit more about what Infinite Green does. John's going to lead us in that discussion, and then we're going to just have an open forum for an hour about contact centers, customer experience design, technology, how everything is evolving in the customer design space. Mary?
Hi, I am Mary Detherow. I am the Chief Integrator. No.
Yes.
No. Interpreter, Chief Interpreter.
Wow.
And I have been working with Infinite Green now for over a year. I have approximately almost 16 years of contact center experience, and thank you for having me today.
You bet.
What I want to know is there going to be food? Will there be food served here?
During the meeting, no.
During the meeting. All right.
I don't think anyone wants to see us eat.
Yeah. No.
We're watching a baseball game. Maybe we could have one of
We got Brian back there.
Brian
vendors
Dozier.
in the aisle. Yeah.
That's a good call. Maybe we can get Dan in here to do that. I'm John Bloom. Thanks, Scott, for the awesome intro. Welcome to Green Talk 1.0, and there will be a test and quiz at the end of the session today. So, no, I'm just kidding. But thanks for having us. This should be fun. I mean, we like to talk and we like to have good conversations, and we're passionate about experience. So it should be a good, fun session. And for anybody that's out there watching today, feel free to hit us up with hashtag #infinite_green on Twitter. And there also is a feedback mechanism on the YouTube as well.
I think if you're in YouTube, you can provide comments down below with the hashtag of #infinite_green, and we should pick that up.
Cool.
Or if you're in Google Hangouts, I think there is a Q&A type of function, which is disabled, I guess, for this event. So you won't be able to do that in Google Hangouts.
So
but
keep
you
your
can.
comments, keep your damn comments to yourself. And,
I guess we'll have to figure that one out for the
No,
next
we'll figure it
broadcast.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Gavin Mackay. I have a face made for radio, so I have no idea why we're doing a webinar with me. But I'm the I'm the chief improviser. I run our technology services division, and along with John and Scott, focus on a lot of the fun, cool, strategic projects with a lot of our contact center customers. So,
Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Cool.
Yeah, so real quick, I'll do a quick overview for those of you that don't know what Infinite Green does. We're a 3-line kind of service line business, mainly focused on business services, so more of the consulting from an operations and from a strategy perspective. We've spent a lot of time in the call center space as well as other companies, healthcare, financial services are a couple of big verticals that we've been in, as well as software development. And we have a couple of really interesting technology partners that we do business with, and you'll hear a little bit about what we do in the space of the cloud. So we're really a company that has, like I said, 3 service lines: business services, technology services, and data services. And if you think about the life cycle or the infinity loop within our brand, we really think there's, at any one point in your business, you can be on any one of those need states. Could be business services. You might have a problem you need solved, or you might need some help operationally with some technology that might, help you get there faster, or enable you to do things like testing and trying and getting more creative within your experience so that you can do the things that you really want to do, but you haven't been able to in the past. And the data services is really telling the right story from the data around it. So we've found that that's our niche in the market, and our clients have really benefited from that. And we've learned a lot in the process, and that's what we want to do, is kind of share with you. GoInfiniteGreen.com is our new website. Please check it out if you haven't yet. And we've been in business about 6 years, had over 55 clients, and we just signed another deal with Intuit. We're in the process. And so we've got some big clients, small clients, but we treat everyone as if they we've only met them for the first time and we want to help them as much as we can. So we don't create cookie cutter solutions. We actually create very customized and very brand specific to our clients' needs. So that's why I think we excel in the marketplace. But so I think we're going to talk about maybe the evolution of the contact center as a good first start.
We are.
Green Talk 1.0, huh?
We'll see how this goes.
All right, cool.
All right. So let's see. Topic du jour: evolution of the contact center. What do you guys think has changed the most over the past 20 years? Is it technology? Is it culture? Is it process, tools? What's evolved? What do you think the most over the last 20 years in the contact center space? Maybe we can go down the line, and then I'll chime in.
Me personally, I think it's actually technology. Fortunately and unfortunately, I still think, especially in America, the contact center, specifically a call center, is still viewed as unfortunate necessity for a company instead of a real driver and growth opportunity for the company. Yeah. So when I work with clients, I definitely try to bring in the voice of the client and the voice of the employee to help them understand the true value. We're just not there yet. But from a technology standpoint, just with the telephony technology alone has really changed up in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that's in that the reason why it's changing now is I think people need more flexibility, right? So platforms as a service or software as a service, predominantly in the cloud. I think what has changed the most is I think the position that the contact center is starting to take. So probably towards the end of that last 20 years, so in the last 5 years or so, I think there's much more value placed on the call center because it's that bridge to fixing what's broken or connecting the dots from the website or the stores or the branches or wherever. And everybody has one of these, right? And everyone uses that as their computer, as their communication device, and as their kind of link to everything. So why would I go to the store after I went on the web if I didn't understand something or needed more information? I'd pick up the phone and call. So I think position has been probably the biggest change. It's becoming more of a necessity to drive a better experience. But then to your point, Mary, I think the contact center technology with companies like Corvisa, companies that really understand how to bring flexibility and open source design to the model and make it easy for their clients to consume as well, so that they can design the right experience, right? I've had so many clients that say, I'm responsible for the experience. I'm responsible for performance in the space, but I have to spin up a project with our IT group, and it takes 6 months to do that, or it takes, even longer and a lot of money, rather than having that flexibility to say, I'm just going to change something within this team today, and we're going to try it out, and we'll measure it and try something different tomorrow. And it's just that flexibility just hasn't been there. And that's what companies that are bringing those capabilities to the table really are making a mark and should make a mark. And then it's time for companies to actually step up and do something about it rather than just say they can't.
I think it's really been driven out of necessity. So if you think about what happened 20 years ago, it would take you a year to implement new telephony capabilities. Yeah. And then you could maybe make a minor change once or twice a year to the environment. So it's a really limiting factor in being able to design what you want to design from a customer experience perspective. And the technology, just like Salesforce has evolved CRM, every company that we've done business with has an element of Salesforce. And the reason it wasn't a corporate strategy that drove them to use Salesforce. It was out of necessity, right? It was easy to install. You paid per month per user. You could set up a trial account for 5 users. You could build some process flows and get moving. And in the telephony space, you couldn't do that in the past. And now, out of necessity, companies like Corvisa and Contact and these cloud-based tools, you can drive change quickly. So I think out of necessity, operators are learning how to plug these tools in and figure out how to get around an old archaic infrastructure that they can't change, because frankly the demands that their customers have are demanding that they evolve that fast.
What I'm seeing really, which is really inspiring, and why I love this space so much, is previously IT actually dictated, or the systems, I should, just to be fair, I don't want to call out any IT groups, but systems dictated.
We're blowing up now, Mary.
Systems were dictating what the customer experience were,
Right.
and it really pigeonholed organizations to, and again, going back to what I was saying about the culture of, it was really limiting what a call center could bring to an organization, because it was limited, the experience was limited to the systems. So now you're seeing with the flexible systems that are out there, it's opening up their minds and letting them know it's okay to actually design around the customer.
Yeah.
And be bold enough to say, this is how I want my system to support the customer experience, instead of, well, this is how we're going to support the customer within your system.
Yeah, it's putting the power in the operators and the business hands versus putting all the power
Exactly.
and all the stress in the IT organization.
Mm-hmm.
So, and most of the people in IT, and you've probably dealt with this a lot too, is they want to focus on heavy IT. They don't want to focus as much on. They want to enable their business partners, but they don't want to focus on the small project level type work that it would take for an operator to change the IVR or change their
Right.
call flow or those kind of things. They want to do more technical things. That's how they're wired, right? So getting that design element, to your point, right, in the hands of the business is really critical. I think that's what's changing.
There's perception of threat, I think, to IT too, because it's the way that we've always done it. So
Right.
if we're introducing simpler tools, is that job security for me? The perception would be no, it's not. It's a change. It's a
Right.
significant change, and in the technology
Yeah, a lot of
space,
box huggers, right?
Yep, you've either got curiosity or you've got, this is the way we've always done it, and there's
Right.
very little ground in technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we see the knowledge hoarding too, right? So I know that if I'm really good at this specific thing, if that changes over time, I might not be as good at it.
Yeah.
Now, some people that enable, or some people that actually motivates to learn new, but for the most part, IT's been traditionally that I have to be the smartest person in the room because that's what you pay me for.
Yeah.
And trying to bridge that within the business, I don't think it's done maliciously. I think it's just done. Everybody gets up in the morning. You guys have heard me say this all the time. Everybody gets up in the morning thinking they're going to do their best work, for the most part, right? And it's those barriers that get in the way, or the traditional mindset of how IT has to be the technical smart person, right?
So you think it's
why talk? Why
yeah,
not
you think
talk?
that's generational? Do you think so? You think you can teach an old dog new tricks, or do you think you have to wait a generation for that to evolve before your company can adopt, let's say, cloud services for your contact center? So, there are companies, there are new companies that we've worked with that don't see that. They don't even know another way than to turn on a service, right? And there are old companies who can't even think, that a cloud service could benefit, the company. So, what's the tipping point, you think? What does the team think the tipping point is in, when that's going to happen, how that's going to happen, what events are going to lead companies that have that traditional kind of, I need to hang on to it, I need to build it myself kind of.
When I spoke at an event a couple of years ago on millennials and kind of the new workforce, it's an interesting time right now because we have 4 generations, and specifically for the call center, right? We probably have close to 4 generations that are sitting in the call center.
Mm-hmm.
And, you think about the Gen X, which is kind of what we were all part of, right? I would say. Our parents were more of the baby boomers, and Gen X grew up definitely having to figure out how to thrive on our own. Right, if you think about growing up in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Latchkey kids.
Yeah, we're the first latchkey kids, right? So very independent, very much a independent driven mindset. But I think that causes some barriers, Scott, to your point, right? In the space, I think it's I can do it all myself because I've had to kind of learn. And I think generationally, you look at the millennials now, and I want everything so much faster. I want a career advance much faster. It doesn't matter if I've spent the time or not. I want to have no barriers to anything that I do. You know, you look at some of the millennials now, like my daughters, right? They have 5 things going on. I mean, Hallie, when she's doing homework, right? She's doing homework on her PC or Surface Pro. She's playing with Play-Doh. She's standing up at the center island in the kitchen, looking out the window. She's talking to somebody over Skype, and she's doing homework all at the same time. And then, you know, and
Well, Scott already does that kind of too.
yeah, but that's because he's ADHD. And
Oh, okay.
just crazy. But I do think generationally, so the consumer now of the faster, flexible, more creative, I think, is the millennials, and that's what 30% of the workforce now. And it's becoming more and more and more. But the older generations, I think, have a little bit more of that structure element
Yes.
that doesn't necessarily lend itself to a lot of cross information within
But I think
departments and teams, that kind of thing.
the beauty of it is having those 2 generations, as well as the baby boomer generation,
Yeah.
actually in the workforce right now, because the pros and cons of each generation, the cons are, the pros of one is actually helping with the cons of the other.
Yeah. Yep.
And what I mean by that is you have the millennials that are like go, 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 and they're not actually waiting. So yeah, it's great that they're adaptable,
Mhm.
but they don't wait to actually fully understand. So
Yeah.
they're immediate to, that, you know, it's a perfect example is your phone. So that doesn't work, so let me just go out and buy another phone. Everything is just so quick, too quick.
Consumable.
They always
Some
find a way, don't they?
to where you have the Gen Xers that are coming in and saying, yeah, but let's look at this, let's slow down a little bit. And then but yet you have the millennials pushing the Gen Xers to like, okay, but move, let's go,
Yeah.
you know, let's do something.
Mhm.
So
Do you ever think there could be too much flexibility, like too much creativity or open-ended solutions out there, so that you never pick a pew? I mean, I haven't seen it. I don't know if that's something that the market always will drive, right? The customer demands will always drive you to find equilibrium at some point, right? But I think this what you're talking about a little bit too is this hesitancy to test and try. Like, it's the why break it if it's not, or why fix it if it's not broken kind of mentality. We can get by with it, you know, good customer experience, or you know, an average IVR design, or why are we forcing people to self-serve when we know they're not picking the option, right? But we'll keep it on the IVR anyway, right? I don't think, personally, maybe I just answered my own question, I don't think that there ever will be too much flexibility in the system. I think we need to drive more, and I think that's why we have no barriers when we go into a client. They all have all the barriers, right?
You know, getting back to that multiple generational thing in a contact center, I think that's what's challenging, because I think older generations like the structure,
Mhm.
and younger generations like to Google search it, right? So
Right.
the younger generation wants the flexibility to look at a solution and, you know, and find it themselves and to kind of craft an answer or a response to a customer.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, older generations like the process-driven, knowledge-based, straight kind of linear types of questions and answers processes. And trying to get technology to do both of those things is a challenge.
Yeah.
Right. Having a multi-generational contact center has unique challenges that way, because you don't just have a young workforce, and you don't just have an old workforce.
You have to cater to all of it
You do.
correct.
at the same time, yeah.
Or find the middle.
Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, the whole flexibility piece, and I say the more the better at this point, because what it's doing is it's forcing software companies to focus on really good products. It's influencing logic into their products, because, you know, take content management, for instance. If you implement a system and it's not really doing what you want it to do, well, you can jump just as quickly from one platform to the next platform in a matter of weeks now. Versus spinning up a project and moving from one box to another box and all of the crap in between.
Yeah.
The design of some of these products now is so logical that if it's not good, or if it wasn't implemented well, you can cut and run. And so it's forcing, I think, companies to be a little bit more on purpose about their design. Yeah. Which then obviously is a positive impact to their customer experience too. So I say the more the better.
Yeah.
And then the challenge becomes how you create a performance management solution.
Right.
You know, for an employee base that supports the flexibility, yet, you know, needs some kind of consistency in terms of customer experience to get decent marks. So it's that construct, I think, that ever evolving construct. The companies that do it well keep up with it.
Yeah.
right? The performance management tool that they had 3 months ago, or the rules that they had within it, probably are changing to meet customer demand, to meet product demand, to meet the ever evolving support that's in the contact center. The companies that hang on to 3-year-old performance management tools that aren't evolving are not moving the mark on customers.
Who do you guys think in the? Sorry, Mary, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to piggyback onto what Gavin was saying. Is I totally agree with you guys that there needs that flexibility. The more the better. What I'm seeing though is as long as there's X with it, change management for one.
Oh yeah. There's a process underneath.
You can move.
Yeah.
It's great to have that flexibility.
Yeah, it's not manic, right?
Right. And again, putting that power back, regardless of what generation you're in, if you don't, if you don't have the change management in place or the processes and such, it's not going to matter. So, and I guess that's where I was going with. I think the Gen Xers are actually a little bit more into that. Let's get, let's have gray boxes instead of that, black line boxes. But then the millennials help. Like, okay, let's think about this differently. So, sorry, go ahead.
So, kind of rolling back out to the future of the contact center market, specifically focus on the U.S. for a second. We get a lot of C-level executives coming to us and asking questions about, well, I think I'm going to automate everything on the web, right? Or I think I'm going to automate all of my support so customers don't need to call and contact us. What's interesting about that, we get that question all the time. What's interesting, if you look at the market as a whole, it continues to grow at 15%.
The call center space.
The call center space. So if the industries are growing at 3% GDP, let's say, right? Contact centers continue to grow, and these are contact centers that support customers via multiple channels, whether it's phone or web chat or email, whatever channels exist. And I think the complexity and the flexibility and how fast the markets are moving right now. Is you can't keep up in terms of pushing information out to a customer, whether it's a product manual or how-to, or healthcare procedures, or a process to file an insurance claim, whatever the case is. Yeah. That human contact is necessary, and that's multi-generational. So I think we get a lot of feedback from companies saying, well, I think that's going to change in the next generation. So kind of tying it back to the generational element, but we don't see that. Right, so I think that's an interesting viewpoint that we have, is that the industry continues to grow, and I think mainly driven from the complexity and the quickness of change. Customers' behavior can't keep up with how you're remodeling your business. You might think it's very customer centric, which it could be, but to train them and to educate each different generation on how you want them to consume your services is difficult, and people require human interaction to develop that. So I don't see. What do you guys think about the future, say 20 years from now? Is the demand for contact centers still going to be there?
I think the space constraints of having to sit in a community of contact center agents. I think that's what changes, right? I should be able to sit at Starbucks and take calls and do homework and read the newspaper online or whatever, right? And take calls and be a call center agent all at the same time. I think that's the thing that changes the most. But we were asked, why in the world would you ever start your company 6 years ago in the most down economy in the world? And we knew that, we knew at that time that companies were going to have to climb out of their existing kind of way of doing things with technology or with process or with people. And we knew they would have that need for services and help going forward, right? But I think it's driven the future kind of conversation that you're spinning up now around what does it look like in the end, with companies that understand how to leverage a remote workforce, but still remain really connected to the brand and to the experience that they're trying to drive. I think is the part.
It's what you always said. Think a contact center channel matters. So go ahead and shut it off.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Your favorite thing to say to people is,
"See what happens."
As you shut your contact center down, for a week, the customers will tell you how valuable it is.
Right.
But I think companies are figuring out that instead of we talked about this bad word, right?
Yeah.
I don't like working at a contact center. I don't like telling my friends I work at a contact center. It has this negative stigma, and I think companies like Zappos and like Amazon. Like USAA are figuring out that that's their most valuable asset, is to bridge with that customer in the moment, how you want them to consume, your services going forward, whether it's a process or how to, what the features of the product or service are.
Yeah, they figured out.
They're figuring out that could be the most valuable touch point that they have versus, I'm going to try to bury it. I'm going to try to.
Well, and it's their marketing
costs.
too, right? So they, traditional call centers, get 1% to 2%, investment of a company's top line, sales, right? And typically that's, a very small percentage, but they have marketing budgets that are, a lot. Well, Zappos and Amazon have figured out that their marketing budget could go into their people, and they don't have to spend as much to advertise, but they create a really strong experience loop, with their customers, so that they get more word of mouth, which is a stickier sell, and it's much more loyal sell, and their employees are happier because they've invested the right way in them, and they promote the fact that talking to somebody is okay, And
I think they've figured out that if you look at the Amazon model, people think, hey, this is this great self-service company.
Yeah.
Right? There's no phone number to call.
Right.
Right. There's no email. There's no email to send, at least, not up front.
Yeah.
But they have 6,000-7,000 call center agents across the globe supporting customers. Well, what are they doing?
Right.
Well, they're reaching out proactively. So I think companies are going to figure out that when a process breaks, they're going to figure out that, I'm going to, instead of waiting for the customer to contact us, I'm going to proactively reach out and say, hey, something broken about you. It's broken about this.
Yeah.
Here's some options on what we think we could help you with. What would you like to do?
Yeah.
And that's what Amazon does great.
Yeah. Proactive communication.
Yeah.
And
To me,
it's
two things. It's proactive versus reactive. So we're thinking about 20 years from now. It's proactive versus reactive communication, not waiting, right? And then the second is, what we've been talking around for years and years now is it's butts and seats versus remote workforce, and how you're staffed against that. So 20 years from now, instead of thinking about traditional call centers, it might be contact groups or whatever it is. It's still a group or squad mentality, but it moves well away from four walls, a roof, and
you probably get
1,000
better
desks.
probably get better employees that way too, right?
Yeah.
Because you're allowing, and it's the at-home model, right? We were asked this, in a couple of clients' engagements that we've had around, help me prove out that there's a, greater return on investment for an at-home agent. And Scott and I keep saying, and we've talked about this a lot, is like, if you think you're going to go and save a ton of money as a company, traditionally you won't, but you won't have as much churn. You'll have happier employees. You'll have better engagements, and you'll create less need to call for your customers because you're doing that. But the traditional sense on the balance sheet of, I'm going to save 15% of my budget just by going in an at-home model, right? It never happens that way, right? Long term, it does, but that, I think the financial.
You have to create a different construct to manage a remote workforce.
Yeah, you do.
You can't use. I think the pitfall companies get into is they try to extend their existing model to an at-home workforce, and they need things like remote training and remote performance management, remote education, remote alerts and communication tools that they don't necessarily have in a traditional call center where you can walk behind someone's cube and say, hey, we're busy, can you switch your break?
Yeah.
Right, as an example.
And that's a very great example around the technology. The technology is there. So again, kind of that shiny object of, oh my gosh, I have the ability to have a soft phone is a perfect example. I have the ability to do this now remotely.
Right.
So therefore now I should be able to work from home. If you have all of this, if you have the infrastructure and everything else in place too. So are you looking for a at-home environment, or are you looking to be able to have the flexibility to, go to the doctor?
Yeah, it actually probably brings up gaps in your experience process that are even, that might have been hidden a little bit before, but it really points them out loud and proud, right? When you start distributing your workforce and not having a good idea about what that experience brand is, and having a good set of says and do's, for the customer, and thinking customer first versus, well, I just have to get on and off these calls and I have to process through them and all that kind of stuff. But it's who do you guys think, company wise, who do you think does it really well?
Remote workforce wise?
I think remote, and just kind of from a blended experience, they provide the right level of access to their agents to help when customers need it, and they also have a really good kind of employee brand. And you said Zappos, and we've used that for years, right? But there's got to be some other companies out there that, who do you guys think does it really well?
Actually, I think Geek Squad does it really well.
Yeah.
I
Little plug for the prior company.
But you know, I'm just being honest.
It's biased, but it is what it is. Yeah.
You know, I'm just thinking. I mean, it actually makes a lot of sense. You have a lot of these techies, and it's actually not even about the generation. It's more about that
Finding the
culture.
skill and culture.
Yeah.
To try to get and pay for IT professional, you know, a help desk professional that wants to actually leave their setup at home, and I'm saying from experience because my husband is this way, to leave their, you know, massive screens and everything at home and then go into an office where they have to fight for, you know, I have this little screen or whatever. Their performance is much better at a home environment. So I thought that was brilliant with from a Geek Squad standpoint of when they thought differently about, well, it's less about going out to your house. I can do it in the comfort of my chair, and so can you. And they have that support structure that's there to manage that massive workforce that's out there.
Yeah,
The irony of what we were talking about before with IT organizations is that it's actually technology support that led us into having to solve for remote workforces.
Yeah.
And the skills that we had to go and find and secure, because we weren't going to move them all to Minneapolis. We weren't going to stick them all in Building D, and they weren't all going to excel in that environment, and that became really, really obvious really quick. So yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think there are companies that have evolved. And JetBlue is a great example of a company that started with only remote. And I think they had some growing pains and brought some of them back in to make sure that they developed the right tools for performance management and for training and knowledge sharing, et cetera. And now we're starting to redeploy that model, kind of a more hub and spoke-ish. But so I think the model varies by company and how mature you are being able to manage. You know, it's a mature workforce that's required to be able to do that.
Right.
And a mature operation that understands how to hire the right people. That can take advantage of, you know, managing my own time versus I need to come into a center because I don't manage my time well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's a human condition that says either I'm a time manager or I'm not a time manager.
Right.
Finding and hiring people that can actually manage their own time is one of the key aspects of a successful remote workforce.
But I mean, we saw that at Best Buy, right? When we established, you know, we go through this big rebranding process, right? And as a retailer, it's, you know, it's not the tagline necessarily, but how do you insert yourself into that brand, right? And when we defined it for our call center partners, right, and our providers, and we got that in front of them, and we really got down into the what is the critical kind of, how do I bring my best to the table on every call and every day, right, as an employee? And all of that design work went into kind of that experience. And once we created those anchor points as an organization and got those out to those vendor partners, I mean, they took it faster than we could actually, you know, give it to them because they were so interested in buying into that bigger picture and inserting themselves as a big part of that success story with each of the customers that called in. And these weren't happy customers, right? I mean, we had people that were, you know, I'm mad at the fridge that just broke and I just got it installed, and how am I going to get this done? And, you know, you said you were going to be here on this day and it wasn't. And, you know, all of those negotiation type elements you can't process those out in strict structure, right? You have to understand this is the goal of the experience that we're trying to drive. And then your personality might be, well, I'll let them talk and vent. And whereas mine might be, well, I'll make sure that they know that I'm listening, and then I'll insert myself as fast as possible. And you, as a call center agent, right, these are probably some of the most creative employees in your company because they have been underserved with technology and underserved with that. To your point earlier, that we were talking about that bad word of the call center, right? I've never felt like it's call center is not a bad word. You know, maybe that's something, again, like when we go into companies, it's like, you know, Scott, you're like, oh, if you don't know what the value of your call center is, shut it off. Right. You'll find out really quickly. Right. And yet the agents and the employees feel like that too. Right. They feel like, wow, I'm in a dead end position or it's a dead end department that doesn't, provide that. But when we figured that out for Best Buy, we saw our customer sat go through the roof.
Right.
And employee churn went down. And so when you talk about technology,
reason for being
connected with a good technology that helps you flex around that experience that you're trying to ultimately get to, I think that's the thing of the future that makes this industry so compelling to be in. But it also is the opportunity for us to drive companies into the space that can't get out of their own way.
Right.
Just a quick note. If you want to, I don't see any tweets yet. If you want to message me directly, you can message me at @infinite_green, and that way I get notified right away. So @infinite_green in Twitter, and I'll see the message note. If you have any questions or comments, or like to see us talk about something.
Yeah, that's cool. Maybe Brian Dozier can talk.
Yeah, Brian, do you have any questions? Why aren't the Twins winning? Oh, you said it's pitching? Not your hitting?
Again.
Oh, okay.
It's hockey.
What would
We're in
Brian-
hockey.
I was gonna say this.
What would Brian Dozier do?
Okay. Minnesota. Go figure. My roots are from northern Minnesota, so I can get into the Fargo talk real quick if I need to.
Yeah, sure, you betcha.
Okay.
Kick the puck out of the zone, eh?
It's Canadian.
That's Canadian.
Same close. Northern Minnesota
Northern,
Canada
yeah.
are one and the same.
That's a bad word actually.
So we talked a little bit about the future of culture, the future of the contact center remote. We talked a little bit about the construct. What about the one thing I see most companies challenged with, and I think this is evolving pretty quickly as well, is this pipe dream of having one view of the customer, right, across all of my touch points, whether it's all my contact points across the organization, whether it's all my products and services. So you see this what's happening in the industry, and what companies are challenged with from my point of view is that they acquire so much, and each acquisition comes with a system and a set of customers and a set of products.
Yeah.
And they just keep on bolting down the list, right? And yet what happens in the contact center space is from a CEO level, it's like, well, I need to organize that under one umbrella and get economies of scale.
Yeah.
Well, how do you support a customer that way if the end user sitting in a call center somewhere takes a call about product A, has to go in the product A system, has to look at product A's customer history, and it's different than product B, and product B is not there, right? So you don't know if they've called about a different product that has the same brand now, right? Or if they've had something defective, or they had a service disappoint, right? How are companies going to keep up with, from your perspectives, in the future state of things? Because acquisition is not going away. This evolution of companies acquiring other companies as they grow up is probably accelerating. And a ton of companies that we talk to have that same challenge. I don't think there's been a company that's solved for that, unless you're a single channel brand, that all you do, let's say it's Zappos, right? Zappos is a single channel brand for the most part. They have a few channels, pretty easy to manage, but any kind of health insurance company, any kind of financial services company, banks, especially healthcare,
But I think
manufacturing.
Well, Gavin was talking, you were saying this earlier, right? I think it's proactive versus just waiting for that situation to come, right? So being more proactive with the information that you do have, and then being smarter about it, right? You probably are calling because something is not working the way it was if you just got something installed 2 days ago, right? So taking a little bit more cue from the interaction or, just the customer transaction or experience, and knowing that they're probably calling about that. What if you reached out with an automated message up front 2 days after the install and just said, hey, is everything working okay? Press 1 if it isn't, we'll talk to you and make sure we get it done right. Then they don't have to, then it's kind of a well call or wellness call, but it's also a, hey, we're thinking of you and we want you to, have the most use out of whatever it is that you just got from us. But I think it's the proactive versus the just reactive.
Yeah, this whole notion of should I, I hear it all the time, should I wait and try to build that end state of having everything, the panacea of bringing everything together before I create my customer experience strategy? Or do I link everything together loosely, right? Or do I just keep reaching out proactively to each system so that there isn't a demand as much to call in? Right, Gavin, you seeing any technology changes that would promote any one of those philosophies that
Not specifically. I was thinking about that this morning because I was looking at the whole Comcast versus Time Warner non-acquisition.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this very topic about how are they going to pull all this stuff together. All of the customers over here in Comcast that we know are segmented between business and residential, and Time Warner structure. I mean, how do you pull all that together?
Yeah, there's not one system.
There isn't, and there's nothing. There isn't a one ring to rule them all right now. At this point, I think it has more to do with process and planning than it has to do with solving of a technology, because you can't pull it all together into a single view and expect everything to be okay.
Well, I would challenge who's the end user in this? Who needs to see it all in one?
Right. Right.
Is it the CEO or is it the call center?
Right.
And I think that's also what gets in the way sometimes is there's the need to pull things together, but the person that's driving that need to pull things together isn't the one that's going to have to use it and try to.
Yeah, I think the open.
So that's why I think the process.
I think the open source, open UI, where I can move panes around, you know, so buckets of information that I can organize the way that best fit my style of, you know, it's almost like your live feeds in Google and some of those things, right? You can set up your own environment. So open APIs, getting the data into the hands of the end user, to your point, right? But allowing them the flexibility around how it best works for them. And being proactive versus just a straight reactive, and allowing the, you know, people that do have to serve the customer from a customer experience perspective, allowing them the ability to not have this traditional wait for the next call, but, you know, like Zappos, right? They write, these agents write cards during holiday season to their customers, and they spend their own money on that stuff because it's really valuable to them, and they look at their history and they look at what they've done, you know, as a customer of Zappos, and say, I'm going to proactively reach out to them in a very personal way. And it makes huge loyalty out of the Zappos customers, right? And so you carry that forward, right? And you say, if I can just present enough information or create a pipeline for that information. I mean, knowledge management systems have been trying to do this for years, and it's not about the system all the time, but what they've done is they've created this need for all of the data, but not figured out how to design it or let the design side happen at the agent level.
It's not anchored in anything.
Right.
Right.
It's not structured. It's structured, but it's not designed, or it doesn't allow that open-ended design for everybody's needs, because everyone's different. There's 4 generations of call center agents.
I think the answer to your question is it's solution sets, and within solution sets, it's just like what we were working with Prime on. It might be a few different applications, a few different systems that help you meet that. But then underneath that, there's a foundation of a process that needs to be anchored in something too. So it's not really cart before horse, but there isn't one ring there though either. So.
Yeah, I know we've tried to solve that gap with process, right? So as, you know, we're firm believers in the concierge type of model, where, and we've designed this for several customers, right? You come into a single agent, that agent kind of figures out, you know, is there a quick solution in the mix, you know, or do I have to know it, have a deep understanding of what the experience is, or what the product or issue they're calling about is, and if they can answer the question, great. If not, now I have an opportunity to send it to a, you know, highly technical specialist or somebody that specializes or has access to multiple systems I can serve, versus that, you know, trying to find the right skill the first time in an IVR, and then they go through IVR hell. You know, or they keep asking you if your business or residential customers. For those who saw my blog the other day on Xfinity and an experience gone.
You should have seen his temper tantrum in the office.
Oh my gosh, it was horrible.
Productive day.
I keep on thinking about Kramer in Seinfeld.
Why don't you just tell me?
Why don't you just tell me the movie you want to see? Why don't you just tell me what you need? You know?
Welcome to Movie Phone.
Anyway, what other concepts do we have to talk about in the future? So on that same topic, you know, we get this one view of the customer that's kind of a pipe dream that, you know, I think creative processes around like the shorter term needs to make sure you're maximizing customer experience is important. But what about from a reporting perspective? You know, Barry, you talked about, you know, how do you show executives what's really happening, right? I know my point of view on how that's evolving is it's really changing. There are traditional ways to look at here's how, we did a project with US Bank, right, where we looked at their entire call center landscape, and we sifted through 2,000 pages of reports of what the executive sees about their 26 lines of business in their 7,000 agents in their call center, right? Not the same. Every business was different. It was all about productivity, right? How much is this costing me? Never a report about how much value there is in talking to the customer. Right? So I think one of the things I see in the future that companies are starting to learn on, and this is something that we promote when we engage with the client, is what value are you delivering during this call? So, or this contact, whatever channel that may be. So to riff on that a little bit, it's a really tough metric to get to, right? So when you talk about value per contact versus cost per contact, cost is really easy, right? You take your total cost in a call center, you divide it by how many contacts you got, there you go, right? It's $7 a call, $6 a call, whatever, and universal. My guess is this is between $4 and $7, right? That's not different for any company or any organization. But when you talk about value per call, right? What is this call doing for me as a company in terms of growth or revenue? That's really hard metric to get to. And it really requires some diligence on getting into a company's construct to say where does the customer show up, and where's the next sale? I know at Best Buy we did a project where we calculated what that was. It was really tough. It took us 6 to 12 months to do it. We had 6 months of baselining, 6 months of live testing through, I think, what do we have, 13,000 phone calls?
20. So it's 20,000 customers.
Yeah, it was a double-blind test, and we said, okay, out of these calls, out of these customers, the ones that contacted us had had good experiences, or let's say great experiences, spent more in the brand.
Yeah.
Right?
Hundreds more.
But it takes diligence to be able to get a company to get there. And I see more companies interested in that, but it's kind of like that one view of the customer, right? That's where I'm going, but I know I have practical things to worry about, like, hey, I just had 20 agents quit today, so now I have to figure out how to staff.
To your point though, the way the traditional reporting and the traditional accounting works is there's not enough context around it about the experience, right? So I think what's needed in the future, or what's needed now, is a better storytelling about the value, right? Scott, to your point, right? It's I think we've got the cost figured out, right? All of the accountants that have traditional, finance and accounting has structured a model that's very linear and very, specific to, how many people do I have, how much do I pay them, and how much does it cost me for the systems and the time and the energy and blah, 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 right? We've got that part down. But companies that really learn how to create almost an infographic about their business so that it can be consumed at an executive level, all the way down to the agents, they feel like they're inputting value, and they can write themselves into that story a little bit more. I think that's where more companies need to focus, right? What's the story I'm trying to tell out of my data? Right. What's and how does that tie back to that experience that we are ever so hard trying to get to, right? At some point. And I think that sense of wrapping it all around, or the infinity that we have always talked about within our brand, right, is it has to get you back there. And we have to continually refine and test and try and tell the right story and get feedback from our customers and continue to refine, that model, or else we're just sitting stagnant. And, kind of back to the technology piece, the reporting has to be much more storytelling, in my opinion, but the technology has to be flexible so that you can get to that test and try more frequently.
And it's not just revenue. It's
hard.
If you're in a healthcare company, it could be saving lives, actually.
Right.
So
it could be
call
life-changing.
could have resulted in, you asking about, are you taking your medication, or did you have problems with your prescription? And they say yes, and getting them the prescription drugs they need, or whatever that may need to save their lives. So, in traditional healthcare companies cannot make that leap.
Which is funny because that's what their business is, right?
But that's what their core business is. But their contact center's performance management on handle time and customer satisfaction. Well, the customer could have been satisfied with the call,
right?
And they could have, not to be too morbid, but they could have died the next day, right?
Not too morbid.
Not that you'd want to tie mortality rate.
Is there more morbid?
That's actually because
that's a different report.
yeah, that's a different story.
Tie mortality rate to a healthcare system, not to be too provocative, but that's in a sense what you're trying to accomplish is trying to decrease that.
But that's how Medicare and Medicaid is being measured now.
Right.
If you don't have a good quality non-readmittance experience, you know, if you don't have that licked, then you get paid less for the Medicare and Medicaid, you know, which is what it's the one part of the, you know, the new healthcare process that I really appreciate is that they're paying for performance, and they're paying companies and healthcare systems to manage a much better experience, and it is causing them to be much more proactive with post-service, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, and the companies that don't know how to do that or can't fix it are going to go away. They won't be relevant in the market in a very near future. And their healthcare systems are already razor thin margins for the most part because of the astronomical costs that they have. So cutting a 1% or 2% off of that overall, you know, revenue stream that they have could be deadly. No pun intended. Not to be too morbid, Scott.
But yeah, I mean, tying it uniquely to your business, I think is the point. And you know, my anecdotal story around reporting, you know, in my past is, you know, one of the conferences I went to, and I told you guys the story a million times, I like to tell it, is, you know, seeing, I was at a conference and there were 300 people in the room, and it was, you know, a key metrics discussion about what metrics you have in your contact center. The great thing about contact centers is you have almost every metric under the sun from all these tools, right?
Slice 10 times.
Right. And the bad thing about call centers is you have too much data. Yeah. Right. And everybody thinks they know how to analyze contact center data to some end game. So this doctor, really smart guy, this doctor at HP, you know, PhD in mathematics, right, is sitting up in front of an audience of operating, you know, directors and manager level operators, right?
This was in Vegas, wasn't it?
No, I think this was in Texas. Oh, okay. This was in Texas. But he gets up and says, here are the top 73 metrics that you need to measure in your contact center. And I look around the room, I think this is ludicrous. I could barely correlate 3, let alone 73. And I see people writing them down furiously. Feverishly. Just, I need to get these down because I need to go implement them. Have no rhyme or reason why they want to look at the metric. Just that this really smart guy who could probably in his head correlate all 73 because he was a math guru. Your typical contact center operator, maybe 3. A smart one's maybe 5. Right. So, you know, I think companies are hungry for the right set of metrics, but I think more importantly, it's why. Right? Why we measure the things we do, and to what outcome. And I think companies in the future are figuring that out. I know, you know, we have a service offering to kind of tie it a little bit to sales. We have a service offering that ties those together. And probably the first thing that we do when we go into the customer engagement is, all right, what's driving performance, right? What are people anchored in that they're looking at every day or not looking at every day that's driving behavior? And then we tie that quickly back to what's the reason this company is in business? And no one's taking that step.
That's a story, right?
Very little people take the step and, okay, here's my performance metrics. Oh, and by the way, my company does X, right? And how those connect. And so I think that's one of the things that companies will start to figure out over time, you know, as they get more customer centric and as customer satisfaction in the healthcare industry is more demanded and now financially impacted. They're going to be forced to figure that out. But your typical domain operators in the contact center space are not going to be the ones that figure that out for you. Because they're in the moment. It's too day to day in the moment.
Where they need to be.
So. You know, you need someone outside in to do that, whether it's a group like us, because we do that really well. I think so anyway. Or, you know, you hire outside in to be able to get that perspective. But that perspective is critical for high performance.
Yeah, I agree.
No messages. We have 5 minutes left.
5 minutes.
We could do this all day.
Hey, should we talk about our? We've got a couple of events coming up.
We got a couple of events coming up. Go ahead.
Next Tuesday from 5 to 7 at Infinite Green World Headquarters, right here in lovely Minneapolis.
With Brian Dozier.
We'll be giving away some Twins tickets. And then on 5/5 on Cinco de Mayo, we also have another event similar. We're going to talk a little bit about the cloud space, a lot of what we talked about today around how that technology can connect you with a better experience and
how to
how it can be free.
how to get started, how to remove some of those
Yeah.
barriers in your organization to take a look at these cloud services that'll offer you a lot more flexibility and some cost savings.
Yeah, it's fun. We're gonna help one of our partners from Milwaukee, our Corvisa brand, that we're gonna get them launched officially in the market here in Minneapolis, and we're excited to do that on the 5th, and can't wait. But if anyone's interested that's watching, feel free to come down.
And
5 to 7.
And there's beer and wine.
And food, and kind of fun stuff, because we're in Minnesota. Everything revolves around beer, wine, and food for the most part.
And it's supposed to be
Fine, I live
warmer.
here.
And it's supposed to be warmer next week.
It's supposed to be warmer next week, which is
Fine.
good.
Much warmer.
Brian Dozier might be able to take the stocking cap off
Do a
too.
big homestand next week. So.
We'll just
Are they playing next week?
we'll just do it anyway.
All kinds of people. And
Oh,
Detroit. I
Oh,
think.
it's not snowing anymore?
It's not snowing anymore, so
Get a hit,
Yeah.
Brian Dozier.
no worries.
wow.
Cool. Well,
Anyway,
I don't know. I thought that was kind of fun.
It was fun.
Did you guys
That
enjoy
that was
it?
our first
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Thanks for
Hope you found
thanks
some
for our
value.
viewers out there. We see we've got some people still.
Yeah.
Hallie texted me and told me that she was watching from the kitchen,
Oh,
probably playing with Play-Doh
Loves
and
playing
probably
with Play-Doh.
standing up and
Yeah.
walking around.
She
She's
should
just
start
like,
taking some phone calls.
what's that?
She could start taking some phone calls
It's good.
for Henson County.
We should be listening. We should be listening to that generation. They figured it out. So
Yeah.
Yes.
thanks for hosting, Scott. Thanks for getting us all up and running. And when's our next one?
Go
We have
Wild
another
Guns wins. So this broadcast will be over the lunch hour, the last Friday of the month. So we're gonna have a topic du jour. You can certainly message us, and if you want a certain topic that you want us to banter about, we
Tell your
can do
friends. Tell
You know.
anybody that just wants to see a bunch of chatter on the wall.
that. Yeah, it's also going to be recorded, so you'll be able to go to YouTube and search for Infinite Green, and we're gonna have a channel out there that'll have all of our videos posted over time.
Cool.
So it'll be easy to find. So if you can't make it during the lunch hour for the live event, you can certainly replay it as many times as you want.
Mhm.
I know I'm
That'd be
going
fun.
to.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we might have to figure out how to do it, at 5:00 and have
Do a 501.
beer.
Have happy hours.
501
Oh, 501,
versus
yeah.
501.
Mhm.
But
Or
anyway,
301. I'm
Yeah,
game.
cool.
And we might have to do it for lunch hours for people in other time zones too. When we say lunch
That's
hour,
true.
central.
our
time.
lunch hour.
Yeah.
Well, Central Time is the most important time.
Hence central.
All right, signing off.
See you guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Ciao.